Hello, my friends. Welcome to another episode of Deep True Crime. I'm Manny Rodriguez. Thank you for joining me today. In today's episode, we are continuing the story of the Delphi Murders. There has finally been some type of answer to help give. Not too much, but enough to have a better understanding of some of the charges that Richard Allen is faced with. And so let's go ahead and dive into it, why don't we? Delphi murder suspect Richard Matthew Allen is being held on a whopping $20 million bond. And this is according to a court docket in the case made public for the first time today, November 2nd, 2022. The docket also indicates that Allen has been accused of a specific subsection of Indiana's murder statute, which involves at least one underlying offense. Now, most, if not all of this, if not all of the actual documents in the file remain sealed. But a series of entries on an online Indiana court docket sketch the outlines of the closely watched criminal matter. And if you've been following this has been a story that the media, the world, the national attention, they have been following these little girls and their story for a long time. And so Law and Crime, they have cross-referenced the abrupt and did their best to clarify the docket entries to shed some light on the case. And just so you know, the entries do not currently list a defense attorney for Allen, so we don't know that, but they do say he's being held on the $20 million bond in cash or corporate surety. $20 million bond. Now, it had been previously reported that Allen was being held without bond. So $20 million is like, okay, we don't think that you might flee, but if you could come up with the money, we'll let you spend a little time out, I guess, right? But there was a bunch of entries in the case docket that were dated Friday, October 28th, when the news broke, and it looked like it was a news that leaked out about Allen being arrested. And it is on that date, that Friday, that the prosecution formally was opened and a verified request to prohibit public access to the records was filed. Now, an immediate order issued by Carroll County Circuit Judge Benjamin A. Diener, he put out a docket real quick that he said this must stay sealed with various records in the case. And the information in a probable cause affidavit, both of which Carroll County Prosecutor Nicholas said, if you guys remember, Nicholas is the one that is prosecuting this, and he was sharing a little more on that as well. So he was said that these documents will remain sealed, which were also filed on October 28th. Now, McClellan and the state police announced on Monday when they had their press conference that the charges are in connection with the deaths of Libby German, who was only 14 years old at the time of her death, and her best friend, Abby Williams, 13 years old. These two were best of friends. But this coward had to take these two beautiful little girls away for whatever selfish reason. And I'm sure, again, this is an ongoing case. So little by little, developments just continue to pop up. And so the young teens, they vanished while walking the Monon High Bridge Trail near Delphi, Indiana on February 13th, 2017. Now, the trail traverses an abandoned stretch of the old Monon Railroad and crosses a tall trestle. And the court docket indicates, as McClellan previously announced, that Allen is charged with 2 counts of murder. Until now, we didn't know precisely which subsection of Indiana's murder charge was at play in this case. The docket says Allen is charged with murder under an Indiana code. I'm not going to read off the code because who remembers those things? I don't anyway. But the code is a murder involving a specific underlying criminal offense. So they basically are charging him with murder with a particular offense that he committed on these 2 little girls. We're going to learn more here in a second. But by way of comparison, let's start with Indiana Code. One of the codes, the Hoosier State Basic Murder Statute. It defines and criminalizes murder as having occurred when a person knowingly or intentionally kills another human being. Now, those words are brief, but the reality is more complex, perhaps explaining why prosecutors did not choose this particular option in Richard Allen's case. But to secure a conviction on the basic charge, according to Indiana's model jury instructions, the state must prove 4 elements beyond a reasonable doubt. They must prove that the defendant killed each specific victim in a knowing and intentional manner. Let me repeat those 4 again. The defendant, which is Mr. Richard Allen, did kill, that would be number 2, each specific victim, 2 victims, in a knowing and intentional manner. Now, that may sound simple, but at times it is not always as simple, because proving that it was an intentional matter, that can sometimes be a little more complex than you think, because they have to prove that he intentionally did this killing. And so a review of a few Indiana criminal appeals suggests that convicted defendants do litigate the issue of whether prosecutors prove their crimes were knowingly or intentionally committed, especially in cases which involve an accomplice or a theory of accomplice liability. And as I shared recently, does he have an accomplice? Cops did not rule that off. And that's where we want to find out more. Libby German's grandma, as you can see in this picture, she says she's a little relieved, but there's still a lot of road ahead in this case. Hopefully, he pleads guilty and the family doesn't have to sit through all of this. Plus, in Indiana, voluntary manslaughter is a lesser included offense to murder, and the model jury instructions suggest that it can operate as a somewhat of a default when coupled to a murder charge. Now, voluntary manslaughter involves a killing committed in sudden heat. Like maybe it wasn't premeditated, but maybe he got an urge at that very moment, like a dog in heat. Maybe he had a sudden heat that he had to fix. And so that's where it could get a little more, become a voluntary manslaughter instead of murder. Now, the jury instructions say the state has to prove that has to prove a lack of sudden heat to convict an individual of murder. Now, if the state fails to prove that sudden heat did not exist, manslaughter is proven and the jury default to that count. Now, the model jury instructions indicate that murder during another crime. Now, that background is important as we look toward the charge the docket says Allen actually is facing. And it's probably expressed in more words than needed in this particular docket, but in some ways it is less complex. Now, the specific charge being alleged against Allen applies when a defendant kills another human being while committing or attempting to commit arson, burglary, child molesting, consumer product tampering, criminal deviant conduct under IC before it's repealed. This involves deviant sexual conduct, kidnapping, rape, robbery, human trafficking, promotion of human labor trafficking, promotion of human sexual trafficking, promotion of child sexual trafficking, promotion of sexual trafficking of a younger child, child sex trafficking, or carjacking before it's repealed. Now, it is unclear from the docket precisely which underlying offense or offenses is alleged in the Delphi case, but the list of possibilities contained within the statute is harrowing. It is possible that kidnapping is alleged because the authorities long ago publicized that brief video clip that was recorded by Libby German of someone saying, "Guys, down the hill." Now, as I've shared with you before, most of the clip has not been shared. Just basically this little portion.
Down the hill. Guys. Down the hill. Guys. Down the hill.
And so we don't know the rest of that video. But again, the docket is silent as to the specifics, including the rest of that video, because they only made a clip available for the public when they were trying to find any answers as to what happened to these two little girls. But, you know, other than that, there were really no other information into these grim details. But again, the docket is silent in a lot of these specifics. It is possible that kidnapping is alleged because the authorities long ago publicized a brief video, which as I shared with you, and so that's the little bit of those specific. But regardless of which underlying offense is at play, the murder charges, as they are currently listed under Indiana Code, will require prosecutors to prove as follow that the named defendant, Richard M. Allen, killed each specific victim while committing or attempting to commit the underlying offense. Now, that's those four things that they have to prove to get the murder conviction, right? And now that does seem like a little bit easier, right? That seems like a little bit easier depending on the facts of the case. And that's where it's key. But it appears from the statutes themselves and from the model jury instructions that prosecutors will not have to dance around proving a lack of sudden heat should the lesser included offense come into the equation. Nor will prosecutors have to negotiate the minefield of proving that the deaths themselves were knowing or intentional. Now, generally speaking, statutes, there, such as the one cited in Allen's docket, require prosecutors only to prove that deaths occurred during the commission of an underlying offense, even unintentionally. Like if he was trying to rob them and then acts unintentionally, something else went way beyond that. But again, depending on the facts of the case, that burden can oftentimes be easier for the state to carry. Now, the decision of which charge to apply to a case is strategic, and here prosecutors aren't saying much beyond announcing the charges and indicating that the case file itself remains sealed. They've remained tight-lipped ever since we even knew about this arrest. And McClelland's office has refused to return any phone calls to even confirm whether the bail amount is indeed accurate. Now, according to these newly revealed docket, initial hearing for Allen, again, was held on Friday, October 28th at 10:30 in the morning. The docket did prove that part that a lot of us already knew. The docket also reveals for the first time when Judge Diener, if I'm pronouncing it right, Judge Diener will hold a hearing to ascertain whether any of the currently sealed records in the case will be made public. Now, that hearing is slated for later this month, November 22nd, 2022, at 9 a.m., the docket says. So we hope that that happens, right? Because a lot of us want to know more. We want to know, is there an accomplice involved, right? Did his family have more ideas around this? Because as prosecutors previously announced, a pre-trial conference is scheduled for January 13, 2023 at 9 a.m. But if they did release more of this docket to the public, then we can have a better idea, what's it looking like? How did they lead to them? Because, as someone who does this channel as a way to try to keep people a little more safer, a little more careful, a little more aware of their surroundings, to me, I want to get my hands on this docket so that I can see, okay, where did these little girls go wrong? What was this guy doing there? 13 and 14, come on, that's not out of the ordinary for two young girls to go hanging around at a park. Now, when they were left off, how long after they were dropped off, those are the things we still don't know. That's why I say it would be great to have a better idea as to what it was, right? Because we know that approximately 2:17 p.m., she snapped this picture of Richard Allen. Allegedly, that's Richard Allen, right? A little bit before, she snapped another picture with them on the track. And so this is the track that I was sharing earlier. So we know sometime from this picture till they took a picture of him, somewhere along the lines, how long after they were dropped off, how long until he came into the picture, how long before that voice recording. It's freaking chilling. It is so chilling. That's a reason why I would like to see this docket. I want to know, what the heck did this creep do? I want to know more on this. But a jury trial in the matter is currently scheduled to last 5 days. And it's scheduled to begin on March 20th, 2023, and to conclude on March 24th, 2023. It's rare that a trial date scheduled this early in a proceeding would indeed occur on time. But it does happen from time to time. And especially with this particular case, again, we don't know if a jury will end up being needed. Maybe they're going to lay out so many facts on this guy, he has no choice but to come clean, not put his whole family through this drama, right? Because this is not fair for even his family, who are innocent in this matter, right? But much will depend on whether Allen waives his right to a speedy trial or enforces that constitutional right that he has as an American, right? But under Indiana Criminal Procedure Rule 4, defendants can file a motion for an early trial if such a motion is filed trial must be held within 70 days of the date of the request. Now, that same rule also contemplates that a criminal trial be held within 6 months of an arrest, though defendants can request delays, usually so their attorneys can examine evidence and mount a defense for their client. And so that is the latest around this Delphi Murders case. And we only wait to find out what else do we know. We found out, I shared with you guys on the last one about Libby's grandparents getting some, because he's a pharmacy technician. If you've been following my series, I even have a playlist for the Delphi Murders series. So make sure you check it out if you want to be completely caught up. I will tell you this, I'm not the channel for you if you expect me to every little thing do a live on. I don't think that's necessary. I get it. It's a spotlighted case. Everyone wants to be viewing hogs and put out, oh my God, a friend talked about a friend. Let's talk about it. I'm not going to do that. I want real developments like the actual docket being released. So I will catch you up on all the little things, but I'm not going to do something just for the sake of views. I'm only going to do it when there's really good, credible substance behind this case. So we treat it like a series. You can start from the very beginning when no one had a clue. They thought it was Kevin Kline. They thought it was Ron Logan. Still don't really know 100% if Kevin Kline has nothing to do with this. Because he did share that his Anthony_shots he did let people use that profile password, including his father. A little odd and sick if you ask me, but at the end of the day, all I care about, we get justice for those two little girls. That's the bottom line in this case. My friends, I'm Manny Rodriguez. Thank you for joining me in another episode of Deep True Crime. I look forward to serving you again. Peace. Have a great day. Be safe out there, my friends. And hey, if this is something that you find valuable, you like this type of content, please hit on that subscribe button. Click on that like if you got some value, because that's going to make YouTube show it to more people, because there is value, at least they believe, if you do that. Thank you for joining me and have an amazing day.